Today we are going to do a fun little exercise where we take a look at Tyler Shough's scouting profile, his draft profile, but we're also going to compare it to Spencer Rattler's, Derek Carr's, and some comps for Tyler Shough, all right? Because we're going to get to know all these guys and kind of what makes them tick, what their strengths are, their weaknesses. And the reason I'm doing this is because when I was going through and kind of looking at Kellen Moore and his draft prototype, not even really just the quarterback, just like what Kellen Moore likes in a draft pick. I think it's pretty obvious that in this draft, Kellen Moore likes experience, a player who has been around, a guy who's proven he can do it, leadership, reps. He really liked the Senior Bowl. He really liked the Combine, all that stuff. So, and I was thinking, man, that is like exactly Spencer Rattler and exactly Derek Carr. And it's kind of wild that now with Tyler Shough, they're all in the same room. So we're going to listen to PFF. This is Trevor Skrmetta and the boys who are breaking down the actual Saints pick. We're going to hear them kind of go through the scouting process, I guess, or the draft profile. And we're going to look at some of the actual like textualized draft profiles.
Saints on the clock at number 40. They draft Tyler Shough. Clearly.
Sidebar, Tyler Shough and Trevor look almost identical.
He's the next guy here.
Yeah.
That's
over Shedeur.
Over Shedeur.
Over Milroe, even.
Over Milroe. Well, look, there was enough smoke with all of the insiders pushing this and everything. Oh, Tyler Shough, watch out for Tyler Shough. He'd be a back into the first guy. There was enough smoke to where I didn't think he was going to make it into round one, but I'm not shocked that he goes. New Orleans being the pick here over Shedeur and Milroe is not what I would have gone with. But him going in the second round, even in the first half of the second round, that's not as surprising as it probably.
You got to kind of remove that, okay? Because I think the first initial thought is, why not take Shedeur? Why not take Milroe? But when you look at it from 1,000 feet up, it makes perfect sense, right? We just talked about it. They prioritize the NFL readiness or the traits that make you NFL ready, which would kind of eliminate Milroe. Milroe is much more of a, you fit him into some packages, okay, but then you walk him along slowly, okay, is he ready in 2 years? We'll see what happens, right? Much more of that kind of Taysom Hill thing, which I think is what he will be in Seattle until if they ever decide to hand it over to him. And then they also really liked the interview process, the combine, the workouts, all of that, which Shedeur didn't do. So in the moment, yeah, it's like, well, why wouldn't they do this or why wouldn't they do that? But then hearing them talk about it, hearing the process, it makes perfect sense of how they would have landed on Tyler Shough.
Probably should have been, just because we were kind of bracing for it with what everybody was saying.
He's got all the measurables you look for. He's 6'5", 219 pounds. He has good arm strength as well. He's just a very, very old prospect, man. He's 26 years old. He'll be 26 in his rookie year. He's actually the same recruiting class as Trevor Lawrence coming out of high school, and he has extensive injury history dating back to Texas Tech and Oregon as well. Not a very mobile player. And the first 6 years of his career, 6 years of his college career, he played 7 years in college football, were pretty meh. And then he went to Louisville.
So you're going to hear this a lot. You're going to hear where either for pluses and minuses, you're going to hear something that is thrown out there, and then it's like an immediate contradiction on itself, right? Like this guy just said he's not really mobile, but then you're going to hear, well, he runs a 4.6. It's like he is mobile, he is athletic, he does get out of the pocket, he does like to, or he can play off schedule, he rolls out really well. All that stuff is true. But then there's like an immediate two-face. There's an immediate bizarro world that kind of proves it's not true. Just like the experience. He's a very experienced player. He's played a lot of college football. But then it's like immediately he's had 29 starts or whatever it is. And he actually isn't that experienced when it comes with actual starts. Like that's the constant thing with Shough. Where you'll see one thing, and then in the very next breath, boom, total opposite. It is a roller coaster profile in this guy.
Louisville had a great year under Jeff Brom, but yeah, I think Tyler Shough, again, I would have taken Shedeur Sanders over him and not thought twice about it, but I could see why the NFL was higher on Tyler Shough.
Well, they're higher on him because in a class of quarterbacks where there's all sorts of questions. Does Shedeur have the arm strength? Does Jalen Milroe have the accuracy? Even like Jackson Dart. Can Jackson Dart play on time the way that he needs to and under pressure, when the game is getting to the 2-minute drill and all that kinds of stuff? Can Riley Leonard be accurate enough? Does Dylan Gabriel have the physical tools that he needs? Is Will Howard able to replicate that national championship run? Can he be as consistent as he needs to be? At least Tyler Shough has an NFL arm. And I think very clearly the Saints are like, give me the NFL arm. Give me at least the player where I don't have to worry about him physically.
Which, again, it's like the immediate contradiction of what is the big problem. Will he hold up physically, right? And then you have to worry about his actual age and all that, right? So, but Trevor's right. When you look at the entire draft class, every player kind of has one of those like, but I don't know. Everyone's like 6 feet. Everyone's kind of either they got question marks about their mental or their physical, or there's something there. Shough, you really don't have it. Physically, he is the most prototypical NFL level quarterback. He's got the best arm, best body, and he's the fastest. All right, so all those are okay. I'm down with that. The only knock, or I guess there's 3 knocks. 2 of them sound kind of funny. Knock 1 is his age. Knock 2 is the injuries. And knock 3, I think, is the relative lack of experience, actual like in-game experience. 1 year as a starter, 1 full year.
Maybe injury-wise you do. But in terms of overall arm talent and physical tools, you don't have to worry about him.
Right.
That's why he's getting drafted here. The Derek Carr situation now very interesting. Spencer Rattler situation interesting, if it was interesting.
Someone in the chat just pointed out that new head coach Kellen Moore is exactly 10 years older than Tyler Shough, who we just drafted. That's pretty insane. I didn't even think about that. Kellen Moore's a very young head coach,
I just think it's this. You mentioned it. This does go back to just the same old thing that we do every year at quarterback, and that's just, hey, physical tools. And not that Shough doesn't know how to play the position, because he learned a lot under Jeff Brom this year. Jeff Brom is quietly one of the best quarterback whisperers in college football. He's had almost all of his starting quarterbacks at least drafted over the last decade, whether it's at Western Kentucky or Purdue or at Louisville now. I just, for a player that struggles so much under pressure, and I know they drafted Kelvin Banks, to now go to a team that was last in the league in pass blocking grade. And again, I don't have Shough as a top 40 player anywhere near it on my board, that's for sure. Look,
he was outside of the top 100 for me as well.
In Kellen Moore's offense.
Now, this is another big sticking point. So Trevor just said he's outside of his top 100. All right, this other hombre on the left, which I always say this, controversial shirt. I just know for me, I'd be sweating through that damn shirt. I would look like a mess. So good on this guy for not sweating. This guy says he's out of his top 40, but then you hear some people in the league, like Todd McShay, it's like, yeah, he's my quarterback 2 or my quarterback 3. You hear some guys who it's like, yeah, he probably would have been a first rounder. So the grades are all over the place with this guy.
If they get one-on-one matchups, they want to throw outside the numbers. I will say, to me, Tyler Shough's best throws come deep and outside the numbers.
Yeah, if you look at Tyler Shough's game tape, he's really, really, really good when you see him throwing deep down the field to the sideline areas, or when he's rolling to his left and kind of doing these kind of trick shot throws.
Numbers, go balls, sluggos, things like that, where he can rip it sideline to sideline. Throws over the middle is something I would question, especially under duress, decision-making under duress. You're right, he's mobile. He's got functional mobility, but it's not dynamic mobility by any.
Yeah, so that's another conundrum. Runs a 4.6. His longest rush last year was 9 yards. So it's like he is a great athlete. He is fast, but he has yet to really kind of show it. I think he only had one rushing touchdown last year, and it was the Clemson one where we saw him like flip into the end zone. So the traits are there. We have not seen any of the traits fully realized, and the gambit, the bet that the Saints are making is that they can realize all of those traits very, very quickly which they will have to do because of his age.
Any means he's got the injury history, and some of that injury history comes from making poor decisions with his body under pressure, right? So I think, look, if the Saints believe this is their guy for now, then fine. Now, the thing with a second-round pick, we've talked about this before with Will Levis and some other second-round quarterbacks, it's easier to get out of also. If the Saints are just a disaster again this year and they're picking top 3 next year, they could take another quarterback, whatever. It doesn't cost you as much with a second-round.
Right, and this part is this is a benefit of the gambit they're running, is it's like, if you take a guy in the first round, you kind of have to give him a couple years. You take a guy in the second round, you can give him a year, 2 years. You take a guy in the second round who's 26, you can give him a year, right? So if this thing goes belly up and he's not great and the Saints are picking in the top 10 next year, they can take a quarterback. It's like, it's not that, it's very similar to Will Levis, Cam Ward, where, you got Will Levis. Yeah, you could probably try and develop him if you really had to, but you could probably also just kind of cut bait. And that's a benefit to this, where you I don't want to say you get a free trial, but the Saints aren't necessarily trying to win now. They are trying to be better than 5-12. But as they pseudo rebuild, if this works out, awesome. If it doesn't work out, you haven't invested a top 10 pick like Jackson Dart at 9 overall, or Shedeur Sanders or whatever at 9 overall, which was the conversation for a long time. It is kind of risk-free as far as like the huge long-term look at this. So when you factor all that in, it's kind of like it's the best time to take a calculated risk like this.
Pick. It's just become shocking at this point that it's both now Dart and Shough ahead of Sanders and even Milroe, honestly, who, again, everybody considers the most physically gifted quarterback in this class with the rushing ability. You have to think, first of all, what does this mean for Derek Carr and what's happening with either the injury or possibly playing somewhere else this year?
Curtains.
In New Orleans, sure, probably. And we don't know the shoulder.
He's the next Steelers quarterback, probably, Derek Carr.
Well,
They're just going to keep cycling through him.
Is he healthy? Is the shoulder injury fake or not, or what? And then you go, okay, is Shough starting immediately? Is there some open competition? Is there what are we doing in New Orleans?
I think Carr's gone. There's pseudo open competition between Rattler and Shough. Shough wins it. Shough's the starter in week 1, I think, is the idea. Let me get through this Papa John's ad and see if they have anything else to say. Otherwise, we're going to go to the grades. Okay, they do not. We're going to go to the grades. Okay, so this is from Walter Football. So I did Walter because you can go and get all of the profiles. So it's the same person profiling these players that we're going to look at. So it's kind of interesting. All right, Spencer Rattler, 6'1", 219, quarterback, South Carolina. His strengths, long list of strengths, okay? Power arm, can make all the throws for the NFL, pushes the ball downfield, easy arm strength, accurate passer, can throw a hard fastball in tight windows, good deep ball accuracy. I mean, you can read all this. Competitor, confident, quick feet, all this. Upside, brings energy to his team. Weaknesses, too many interceptions, ball security, gunslinger, and short. And something you'll notice with these profiles is that a lot of what they bring up, a lot of like the concern continues to be the concern. Like even when we do Derek Carr, a lot of the stuff they talk about, it's like, damn, that actually is the concern. So he talks about kind of his prospect summary, and I'm going to link all this if you want to read the entire thing. But if Rattler is exactly like Shough, where really weird college career, some of it his fault, some of it not his fault. He had to go through adversity. He had to go through things. And he has these physical tools, but they're all kind of unrealized. He was never spectacular in college. Like, even when Rattler went to South Carolina, he did good things, but it was, you could still see it was kind of raw. Like, Rattler is who Kellen Moore would have wanted to take. Very similar to Shough. Almost the exact same route in college. A lot of the stuff you hear about Shough from Loomis and Moore could be said about Rattler with the setbacks and the adversity and all of that. Rattler did the Senior Bowl. Rattler threw, like the combines and all that. Very similar. The difference is he ain't 6'5". Okay. Now let's look at Tyler Shough. Okay. Strengths. Very smart. Strong arm. Accurate. Throws in anticipation. Pocket presence. Throws a catchable ball. Good deep ball thrower. Can make plays off script. Has some athleticism. Can run for yardage. Worked under center. Looks very natural. Executing pro-style play action. Has upside. Almost the exact same as Rattler. Okay. Weaknesses. Lack of durability. 3 lost seasons due to injury. Sometimes is late with his eyes. Gets antsy in the pocket. Lost a lot of playing experience and developmental time due to injuries. All right. And then we go through all that stuff. In the 2025 NFL Draft, Shough could be a day 2 pick. He has the ability to be a good starter in the NFL and could end up being a massive steal if he can stay healthy and play up to his ability, which we all agree with. Okay. He comps him out as Jared Goff. So then let's go to Derek Carr. Strengths. Extremely experienced, strong arm, can make all the NFL throws, good on touch passes, good footwork, decision-making, field vision, accurate, intelligent, hard worker. It's like the exact same guys. Exact same guys. Good character. Weaknesses. Anxiety issues, can get flustered by a pass rush, level of competition at Fresno, lacks mobility, not a running threat, smaller hands. Okay. Which is so interesting because the flustered by the pass rush was something that stuck with Carr for his entire career, right? Against good defenses, Carr could get flustered by a heavy pass rush. This is a legitimate concern considering that problem is what led to his older brother being a bust. Blah, 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 okay? If you take, like, let's say you take Shough out of this draft and you put Rattler in the draft. I think Rattler is who Kellen Moore would have really wanted to pick. Let's say you take Rattler and Shough out of the draft and put Derek Carr in. I think Derek Carr is who Kellen Moore would have drafted. They're so similar to each other. Everything about them makes them kind of like the Kellen Moore guy. All right. Now, Carr what's Carr, like 6'3"? They don't have it on here. I'm trying to see what he was during the draft profile, what they have him at. I think Carr's like 6'3". But, you know. Okay, so let's go to some of the comps, or who I've heard Shough is similar to, and we'll kind of say yes and no to some of these guys. So Josh Allen is one. He's not like Josh Allen. Josh Allen is much bigger, as far as like thicker. Josh Allen is more of a really hard to tackle, run through you, kind of sheds tacklers. Allen also has like elite level arm. Like, I think Shough has a good arm. I think Rattler has Jesus, what the hell was that? I think Shough has a good arm. Rattler has a good arm. Carr has a good arm. They don't have like Josh Allen's arm. Okay, I think his is like the highest possible level. I'm pretty sure he's thrown the longest completed pass in NFL history. So he's not Allen. The similarity to Allen is that Allen didn't really produce in college. Like Allen didn't have this insane 5,000 yards, 45 touchdowns collegiate career. Allen was kind of drafted on his physical traits. And Allen is a really good example of draft the traits, try and harness the traits. If you can do that, who really cares what he's doing in college? Like as far as like stats and all that, right? Like draft the player, don't draft the career. But he is different than Josh Allen. They're both tall, but they're not anywhere near, I don't think, the same kind of player. What about Jared Goff? All right, Jared Goff, 6'4", 215, a little bit more spindly. All right, let's read some of this. Accurate passer, excellent touch passer, throws a very catchable ball, capable arm, can make all the throws, functional mobility, we just heard that, can pick up yards on the ground. I think that's exactly the one that's in Shough's, is can run for yardage, okay? Good feet in the pocket. Weaknesses, thin build, needs more weight/bulk, lets pass rush affect his mechanics, can develop some bad mechanical habits, can lock on receivers, quality arm, but not a cannon. Needs development for a pro-style offense, something that Shough is a little bit ahead of Goff on. College offense ran a lot of plays he won't run in the NFL. All right, so we don't have to worry about that. This is more back in like the air raid kind of days. But Goff is, a lot of people see Shough as kind of like, can you get to Jared Goff? Now, Goff is not the athlete that Shough is. Goff isn't running the 4.6, So a little bit of a difference there, but he's closer to Goff than he is to Allen. All right, next, Ryan Tannehill. So Ryan Tannehill is an interesting one. Ryan Tannehill was a receiver first, became a quarterback. All right, so remember that. Strengths, good arm strength, quick release, accurate thrower, good mechanics, plus field vision, extremely mobile with scrambling ability, pick up critical yards with his feet, good fit for NFL offenses, intelligent, hard worker, leader, passionate for the game, good teammate, quality wide receiver, versatile athlete. It's kind of funny, back on the day they're saying could stay on the field in a wildcat at QB or wide receiver, high character individual, needs to improve his anticipation, ball security, small hands, only 19 college starts, 20 games at quarterback. All right. The strengths are very similar to Shough. Like if you look at Tyler Shough's strengths and you look at Ryan Tannehill, very, very similar. Okay. He comps, does he do a comp? Rich Gannon. All right. Rich Gannon is the comp for Ryan Tannehill, which is not a bad one to comp out to. I mean, Rich Gannon was an NFL MVP. Okay. Let's see here. Gannon was a force who could rip a defense through the air, but also could pick up critical third downs with his feet. Tannehill has a skill set and style like Gannon. If Tannehill ends in the right spot and is developed well, he could turn into a quarterback who is comparable or comparable, as some would say, to the 2002 MVP. All right, I think Tannehill is a really interesting comp because a lot of people would see Tannehill and see the end of his career and be like, oh, this guy sucks. But I would not be so quick to say that, okay? Let's see here. So pundits are pushing Tannehill in the top half of the first round. Many believe that he grades out as a second-round pick, but the demand for quarterbacks pushes him into the first round. He has the physical skill set to be an effective starting quarterback in the NFL. Again, very similar to what we've heard from Tyler Shough. Next up, this one's kind of from me. I haven't heard this from a lot of other people. Justin Herbert. Okay, the guy who Tyler Shough backed up. 6'6", 227, very similar body type. Relatively spindly, tall, not thick. Athlete, though. Justin Herbert ran a 4.6 as well. Okay, but you wouldn't say Justin Herbert is like a... He can certainly get you on the ground, but he's not like a super dynamic runner by any means, okay? So let's look at Herbert's scouting report. Tremendous skill set. Now, Herbert does have an arm closer to Josh Allen. I don't think Shough has quite the Justin Herbert arm, but tremendous skill set, powerful arm, can make all the throws, fastballs in a tight window, accurate passer, deadly as a pocket passer when given time, pocket presence, doesn't panic when first read is covered, willing to push the ball downfield, precision thrower, throws a good deep ball, field vision, stands tall, steps into hits. Like some of this stuff Shough does not do. And some of this stuff Shough is going to have to learn how to do, okay? Experienced, humble, hardworking, mobility, extends plays, athleticism. Let's see. Then we go to weaknesses. Not a commanding leader, struggles in big games, played down to competition at times. Some feel had a sheltered upbringing, lacks a killer instinct, which is kind of funny because we have seen some of this play out in Justin Herbert's career, right? Let's keep going here. After his senior year, Herbert had a solid week of practice at the Senior Bowl, showed off great skill set, interviewed well. Let's see here. He won't be a true running quarterback like Michael Vick, Cam Newton, or Deshaun Watson, but Herbert has the feet and agility to dodge pass rushers and extend plays while also being able to pick up yards. Herbert runs faster than the defense expects and is faster than most quarterbacks. Can say the same for Tyler Shough. Okay, let's keep going here. His player comp, Carson Wentz. It wasn't easy to find a comparison for Herbert because he is a unique player with a rare skill set. Herbert has some similarities to Wentz, and team sources noted Herbert is bigger and stronger than Wentz, but they are pretty close in terms of their skill set. Okay? So when you're looking at Tyler Shough, he's kind of a little bit of all of these guys. He's kind of a little bit of Derek Carr. He's kind of a little bit of Spencer Rattler. He's kind of Josh Allen. I don't really like the Josh Allen one. That's one that people are throwing out there. I don't really see it. But he kind of is Jared Goff. But he's also kind of Ryan Tannehill. And he's also kind of Justin Herbert. So you combine all of that together. Okay? And we've seen, just looking at this, like these draft profiles, it shows you what the player was before the NFL got to him. All right. Just like with Josh Allen. Josh Allen desperately had to work on his mechanics, his actual arm angle. There's an infamous video of Josh Allen actually doing that. Like it's somewhere on YouTube where he goes in one of the off seasons and they basically rebuild his throwing motion. And it completely changed his accuracy. So it can be done. All right. Just like you see the draft profile of, Justin Herbert, like what he has to work on, what he has to get better at. And then you can see like, okay, he did. And that made him this. Or you look at some other players where they hit a ceiling and then some of these other weaknesses kind of took over or whatever. But I think somewhere in all of this is what Kellen Moore is going to try and extract out of Tyler Shough. And, I've seen some insane comps. I've seen some people like, oh, maybe he's like Taysom Hill. He's nothing like Taysom Hill. All right, that's not what's going on. I've seen some people who are like, oh, he's got some breeze in this game. Like, all right, we got to try and reel in some of these comps. Okay, so, but it is interesting how similar Carr, Rattler, and Shough are, especially under the umbrella of what Kellen Moore wants. Now, Carr probably will never be in that quarterback room again, and Kellen didn't get to draft Spencer Rattler, but this is like a Pokemon evolution. This is like 3 Pokemon evolutions all in the same area with Rattler, Carr, and Shough. So we'll see what happens, but, we're just trying to really flesh this out. Like, this is one of the things where, so I've seen a lot of people, I'm reading through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments every single day. I'm seeing a lot of people who are saying, I didn't like the pick. I didn't understand it, but he is the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. I have to root for him. I hope he knocks it out of the park. With all that kind of comes this like learning process. All right. It's one thing. You cannot like the pick. That is absolutely okay. You can have questions about the experience level, the age, the durability, the throwing the ball away, that you can have questions about all that stuff. The fact of the matter is, he's the quarterback of the Saints. And our job now is to do the work and understand what kind of a player he is, what kind of a situation it is, what we're looking at, what he needs to get better at, what he can do well, what we can expect. And that's what we're going to do. We aren't, like I said, are they drag racing out in the middle of the street? I've said it before. You can have fun with memes. You can have fun with viral clips and all that stuff. It is what it is. But now we got to get down to brass tacks. And we got about 5 months to get to week 1. Okay, so we are going to explore this. We're going to go through every single page of this book. We're going to do the work. We're going to put the time in. We're going to watch the reps. And we're going to try to educate as well as we can here. And will it work out? Who knows? Could be the next Will Levis. I don't know. Could be the next Ryan Tannehill. Could be the next Justin Herbert. Who knows? Could be the next Jared Goff. Jared Goff was thought of as a bust until as recent as about 2 years ago. All right, and I've been a big Jared Goff guy. I was a huge Jared Goff supporter back in the Rams day. But so there you go. So I like this is a fun little exercise of just kind of looking at all these guys under the lens of like a draft prospect, because it's easy to be like, it's easy to look at Derek Carr now in the final form. It's easy to look at Justin Herbert, who he is now, and but to look at them all at the same time period. You look at how is Shough looked at as a prospect? How was Rattler looked at? How was Carr looked at? How was Tannehill looked at? How was Herbert looked at? Like all these guys. I saw another comp for Shough of Kerry Collins. All right, old school, and I was trying so hard to find a profile of Kerry Collins, but I guess they weren't doing that far back. So, but I hope you learned something here. This was a lot of fun to go down memory lane. I could get lost in these profile reports for hours. So, hope you learned something. I sure did, and I will see you in the next video.